The danger with libertarians taking to the streets. They all just end up in bookstores. All right. Got him quiet anyway, my bad joke. Robert Bell is a Texas transplant of 25 years. With his bachelor's in chemistry and master's in business administration, Robert has worked and managed in pharmaceutical and blood bank industries. His vision for the governor's office is one where common sense and libertarian values outweighs the current environment of political games and cronyism. Kathie Glass, born in Beaufort, Georgia. In a blue-collar family, Kathie was the first person in her family to go to college and worked her way through college and law school. On 7/7/77, she came to Texas, and the next year joined the Libertarian Party of Texas, where she met Tom Glass, going to their first date at the National LP Conference in Denver. Candidates Locke and Robert Garrett did not submit bios to us, so we will give you 15 additional seconds as part of your opening statement to introduce yourselves. Is that okay with the other candidates? All right. So let's we'll start here. Let's go in alphabetical order by last name for the first question. I will start with Mr. Bell. If you could, your 3-minute opening statement.
Hello, everybody. I'm Robert Bell, and I'm running for governor because I see a need. Looking at my options last October, I saw no candidate who represented me, my family, my friends, nor my community. When I turned to the party that I've been voting for the past 5 years, I saw a need. At the time, there were only 2 candidates for the Libertarian Party, and I saw no connection between myself and what those 2 candidates represented. So I saw a need. After traveling and talking with many of Texans, talking with other candidates and listening to their views, I continue to see it. Some believe that our border needs to be militarized to be made more secure, but I do not believe with that position. I believe that people who are in need and who want to come to the country of the land of the free should not be first met with guns, fences, or barbed wire. And I know many of you out there feel the same as I do. So I see a need. Some believe that gay couples should be denied the right to marry or to be able to adopt children. That government should mandate our personal life choices. I do not agree with that position. I believe that a loving relationship and a caring household are good things, and that marriage is a right amongst consenting adults. And I know many of you out there feel the same as I do, so I see a need. I refuse to make exaggerated claims such as being able to slash the state budget 50% just to lure you and other voters into our cause. I believe in honesty and in integrity. And I know many of you out there feel the same as I do. So I see a need. I'm not afraid to prioritize the advocacy for a change in laws regarding marijuana legalization. This is not an issue that politicians can ignore simply because it makes them uncomfortable. I believe in personal freedom and responsibility, and I know many of you out there feel the same as I do. So I see a need. We've all heard the views of candidates on the campaign trail. It is the responsibility of our governor to speak out for those who want to live their lives freely. It is the responsibility of our governor to protect our individual liberties. If there is one voice crying out to live their life freely, then I say that it is our top priority to fight for liberty in Texas for that voice. Thank
you. Mr. Garrett.
Okay. My name is Robert Garrett, and I am running for governor. Is because that, just like he said, there is a need. There is a need so great that this country has never, ever experienced what we're going through right now in this country. One of the things that I'm running for as governor of Texas, I'm going to be duty bound, and I will be duty bound to see that our rights are protected, to see that not only our needs are available to us to utilize them, but we have the freedom to do it. Ever since Obama has become president of the United States, this country has gone downhill tremendously. We all know the true reason why he was elected president, and there's no other reason for it. But yet, because of him, we have been betrayed by our own representatives. The time has come to replace those representatives. That's why we're all up here right now. We're going to be your representatives. You're going to vote for one of us to be governor, state attorney, general, and so on down the line. Also, too, you're going to be voting for the people who's going to represent us as a senator and then as a representative. I believe there's no greater honor in order to attain this than to run and be a representative of other people and for the people. One of the problems that we face right now is our education department in Texas. They're teaching our kids to be dumbed down. This needs to be changed. It needs to be turned off and replaced to go back to basics. As governor, that's what I'm going to try to do. As governor also, I'm going to tell the federal government to get out of our business. If they offer us money, I'm going to reject it. Because if we accept that money, then we become the debtor. We have to do what they tell us to do. And no more. That's going to stop. We will have a hard road to travel. There's going to be a lot of bumps, a lot of dips. We're going to fall, but we're going to pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off. Thank you.
Kathie Glass.
I want to be your gubernatorial nominee and your next governor because I see our liberty and our country and our Constitution dying right before our eyes. And we've got to do something to stop this. We are living in a surveillance state, which can easily descend into an actual police state if we're not already there. I see this as a threat that threatens each and every one of us. But we've got to wake up to what we can do to fight against it. In order to fight against this federal tyrant, we need something with the help that the state of Texas has to push back on these unconstitutional acts and this new police state. But we've got to have the right governor, the right leader. That is why I'm running for governor. That's why I want to be governor. Now, if I'm not able to be governor, what I want to do is at least be your nominee and clear the state of Texas, as I've been doing for pretty much the past 4 years, waking people up with what can happen if we let America become a police state. All the things that you may hold dear, it won't matter that much. What your position is on very important issues. Because in a police state, you're told what you can do, what you can say, what you can think. Now, if you see things this way, then I think you get me. You get why I'm doing this. You know why I'm prioritizing things. You know why I say we've got to work together to beat back this monster. If you don't see things the way I do, if you don't think our country and our Constitution is under attack, or if you do, you think it's a good thing, and there are some people like that in our party, then you don't get me. And what I say will not make sense to you. It will sound alarmist to you, maybe hysterical. And you won't believe that what I say, why I'm doing this, you won't accept that as my motivation. And you'll come up with your own motives for why I'm doing what I'm doing, and they'll probably be pretty bad. But this is why I'm doing this. This is why I want to be governor. This is why I want to be your gubernatorial nominee. Because Washington is broken, we know that. The two-party system is corrupt, we know that. But there's going to come a day when Washington's not just broken, but totally collapsed. And we're going to know what we're going to do when that day comes. I have a plan for Texas independence, not secession, But it's a way Texas can stand on our own 2 feet, just as we should have been doing all along, and weather this storm. When this collapse comes, we will not go down with it. We will survive. Now, let me just give you an example of how fast this thing can come and why we need to have the right gubernatorial candidate. I'm informed by a delegate to this convention that recently at Camp Mabry, there was a meeting with Washington generals and colonels and Austin City Council and the mayor, and they said that when June 1st, our Texas State National Guard was going to be no longer be reporting to the Department of Defense or the Army, but was going to be assigned to the Department of Homeland Security. They were being questioned, soldiers were being questioned about whether they comply with orders to confiscate guns. That's the threat. That's why we've got to act.
Thank you. Starlight.
Thank you. I guess I probably owe this country and this nation more than anyone in this room. I've spent most of my life traveling around the world, luckily as a dependent son of an Army officer. I lived 3 years in Japan. I've lived in Germany. I graduated high school in Paris, France. I've been fortunate to live in Mexico. I bring a unique viewpoint to this race. I bring an international flavor to it with a military coloring. I was fortunate enough to play football at the University of Oklahoma under one of the greatest coaches who ever lived, Charles Bud Wilkinson. The longest winning streak in the history of collegiate football, untied and unbeaten 47 games straight. And he told me this. He said that sacrifice builds discipline, and discipline builds character, and character builds champions. What we need right now is a champion. And I learned at OU that it's a team sport. If I were fortunate enough to receive your nomination, I'd look at it more as a service. I would never want to rule this thing. What I want to do is show you some things that I think I've learned over the past few years and see if you agree with them. If you don't, we'll change the program. A couple of the programs are the first one that I passed at the county convention, the precinct convention, and the district convention was to build a Texas Army. We need jobs in Texas. I'm going to present to you the reason on the border, what I think has to happen. I need 500,000 men from the Texas Guard. I'm also proposing to bring water from Mississippi down through the Red River into Lubbock and south, and I'll demonstrate that here in a little bit on my topographic maps. So I appreciate you all listening to me, and we'll hear more from you in a minute. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll ask the first question. We'll start going this way to Mr. Garrett and work our way back each time. And each of you will alternate getting the questions first. So this is going to go to Robert Garrett. And the question is, this was asked in the agricultural race as well, what are your thoughts on the Bundy Ranch situation in Nevada, where the Federal Bureau of Land Management is preventing a rancher from using public lands owned by the state for grazing?
I'm very much aware of what's going on up there. And right now, I downloaded one of the emails that I get from the Watchdog Group. And right now, it's getting pretty hairy up there. People are supporting Mr. Bundy up there, and there are militias on their way up there to help him. However, one of the problems that it is that what is it, the BML? Bureau of Land Management, BLM? Okay. They think that they can just come and take the land, and when it's not their land. He's had that land since 1880. and he's been using it to raise his cattle, handed down from generation to generation. What they have done now, they're on the borderline that something is going to happen. And I'm afraid that somebody's going to loosen their finger, a round is going to go off, and somebody's going to get hurt. Excuse me. What the BLM is doing is illegal, it's unconstitutional. We need to get rid of it. It doesn't belong in the Constitution, it doesn't belong in existence in America. And we need to restore the property rights of our American citizens. If we don't, then what is the use of having America? Owning property and protecting our property rights is a God-given right. It was given to us by God as an unalienable right. It was recognized by the founding fathers. But yet, our government wants to take that right away. Well, the point is, we need to start standing up and face the government. And part of that is that we're going to need to do it with our guns. They won't listen to us. They have already betrayed us. And the only thing I can see now is that we go up there with our guns and we show force. And we're not afraid to use it. They've already shown their force. They use the taser guns, but they haven't used their sidearms yet. It's just a matter of time before they do. So far, several people up there have been tased. The dogs have been sicked on them. And we need to stop this right now before it escalates, because it's going to happen here, and it's already happening here. Thank you.
I don't profess to know all that's going on there. I mean, even if you read the news, that's one of our problems. We really don't know what's going on. Everything gets so filtered that we don't know what it is. But I think we can all assume safely that this is a problem that arises from in collectivism. When there is not private property ownership of land, the federal government owns, I don't know how much of the bottom, like 70 or 80% of it. That's wrong. Back in Social Security days, like a decade ago, I said that's how we should solve Social Security. We should catalog everything the federal government owns, assess it, itemize it, put it up for bid to the highest bidder, and then pay all the people who have legitimate claims to Social Security, and then shut that thing down. It would solve multiple problems all at once. But how do we do about this now? Well, there needs to be some notifying going on, and I hope they've got a good notifying governor in the bottom who could do that. We have a similar problem that the anniversary is coming up pretty soon here in Waco. And if we had a notifying governor there, that would have happened. But these are things where we have to push back on Washington. I don't know why some of these things pop up when they do. Sometimes I think they're manufactured by the federal government to test us or to condition us into accepting, just doing what we're told. I think there's a lot of that going on. But Camp Mabry instance I told you about before, that's here. That's coming. I don't think they're telling our soldiers, asking them, will you comply with the order to confiscate guns and putting the procedures in their manuals for no reason? We're going to be tested, and our guns is a line in the sand that we cannot give up. You may be able to give up some rights and over time hope to win them back, but you give up your guns and you'll never get that back, and you'll get every right, other right will go with it because you can't protect them.
I was thinking we were going to talk more about Texas in the board meeting. How much time do I have to answer this?
90 seconds.
Well, actually, I just want to say, I accidentally gave everybody an extra minute for this one, but we are going to set 90 seconds on the time.
Okay.
Let me change the subject a little bit. Two and a half years ago, I moved into Mexico, put boots on the ground and set up a ranch on the other side of the border so I could figure out what was going on inside. Live with the people, learn the culture, learn the language. And then I realized that many of my friends over there were being murdered and killed every day. People are dying daily. Over 20,000 people have died. And those are the only ones whose bodies have been found recently. 3 weeks ago, across from Eagle Pass, Piedras Negras, this lady here who is like the queen of physical activity of the TVs over there, the cartel got at her because she wouldn't pay the gratuitous that she needed. They found her 3 days later, murdered, 17 stab wounds in her neck. This is what's going on in Mexico. And my friends over there, some of them have disappeared. And this is why I asked for this job, so I can build this Texas Guard. As everyone mentioned a moment ago, the federal government is not going to do it. I have already joined the Texas Guard. Every one of you can join if you want to. It's free. It's a volunteer organization. In fact, you have been assigned to a position or a post yet. But I joined 2 weeks ago. One of the members of this group actually told me that was possible. I checked it out. It is true. So we'll talk more about that in a minute.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Bell?
Buddy Ranch. I would say that this was a situation that's been going on for, I guess, from what I've read, 20 years. He's had a conflict with the federal government and basically leasing land. Now, they're definitely showing a non-net attitude when it comes to seizing his property over these funds, and it definitely shows a breakdown in our government and his local government at that should have been able to intervene on his behalf and act as a sort of negotiator between him and the federal government so that it doesn't escalate to how it is now.
All right, thank you. This question goes to Kathie Glass first. And what should be done at the state level about the fusion centers operated by the federal government? Does the federal support for fusion centers and even suspicious activity make any sense? What can be done to mitigate the risks they pose to civil liberties, prevent waste, and improve oversight?
Oh, it makes sense all right if you're a federal tyrant from their point of view, but it should be nullified. These things are unconstitutional federal acts. The number one issue in this governor's race, well, who will nullify? Who will lead the charge to nullify these unconstitutional actions? The fusion centers is a form of terrorism itself. It's not a response to terrorism, and there's just no justification for it. So yes, if we had a nullifying governor and a nullifying attorney general, we could stop that. Because it's not constitutional, and it violates Texas law. This is the essence of nullification. You don't need to complicate it too much. It's just when an unconstitutional act is being done in the state of Texas, any one of a number of mechanisms can just state that's unconstitutional. We're not going to participate in it. Our local law enforcement is not going to participate in it. And that violates the Official Oppression Act of Texas Penal Code. They should be prosecuted for their part in this. And federal agents can be prosecuted under the Official Oppression Act. And so then we say, not only are we not going to participate, but you're not going to do it. You violated Texas law, we will arrest you, prosecute you, and act accordingly. And it doesn't matter if you were paid by the federal government or doing this unconstitutional and wrong thing at their behest.
I'd like to ask the question, please.
Okay. Mr. Bell?
Okay. I totally believe that Texas has the ability to self-regulate when it comes to these matters. We don't need federal oversight on this. Texas has plenty of people that are knowledgeable and know how to take care of it. So I do believe in a pushback in this case and be able to just strike them out and say Texas can take care of their own.
Okay, I'll try to answer that one. If I can't, I'll just say, that's it, I can't do it anymore. I kind of agree with Kathie, what's going on with this, is that, and Bob here, is that we need to get federal control out of our business, out of our state. One of my issues that I'm going to do as governor is that we're going to get government, federal government, out of our state. We can handle our own problems. We don't need the assistance of the federal government. Government does not know what's best for us. They think they do, but they don't. So, as a result of this, basically, we nullify. And as governor, I'm going to instruct the legislature to come up with a bill that will nullify / compliance. What this means is that any federal law that the government passes, the federal government passes, the state of Texas will look at it first. It will automatically be nullified. We look over it, we critique it, we talk over it, we debate it, and if it does not violate the Constitution or the citizens' rights, even by its very spirit, then we'll follow it, we'll comply. But if it does, it's nullified automatically, and we will not obey it. This is what I believe that we need to do. And as far as the ones that be arrested and go to jail, well, I'm a correctional officer. That's my job. And I would love to see Obama and his cronies in there. We talk about it all the time at the prison expansions.
Okay, this question will start with Starlock. And what are your stances on border protection and immigration?
Finally, thank you. People who are crossing that border are refugees. Correct word. 2 weeks ago in Houston, Texas, over 100 human beings were found locked in a safe house over there with 600 chickens. What I'm trying to tell everybody is there are routes and roads into this state right now by not only the drug cartel, but by slave traders. And these people are slave traders, and they're all over Texas. I had 2 employees of mine, part-time employees, who have worked on roofs before, get picked up by the Border Patrol, and 7 days later, they're back in the valley. It costs $600 to get back across this border. Everybody knows it. The police over there are involved in it. They're corrupt to the core. The government is corrupt to the core. 3 weeks ago, the government sold the propane business to the cartel. And who's in charge of Mexico? These are pictures of federal troops, Mexican troops. Can you imagine a U.S. troop in this country wearing a mask, scared to death his family's going to be killed?
Thank you.
As I said in my opening statement, I'm all for more ease of immigration coming in, more open borders, if you will. I agree with Brewster County Sheriff Dodson in that it drains resources from other causes and makes people feel insecure. That politicians need to stop talking about the border and focus more on what's inside of Texas and take care of their people.
Thanks. Robert Garrett.
One of the issues of immigration, I believe, is that, just like Mr. Starr said, is that you've got some refugees coming over here to get away from tyranny. They're coming over here for a better life. They know what's over here, what to expect. And there's nothing wrong with helping them. They're trying to get away from socialized tyranny, whatever you want to call it, the threat of death of themselves and their family. We need to help these people. And as far as determine how this is going to be done, we need to set up some type of program. I don't know how. We need to talk, we need to debate, we need to work the problems out. One of the issues, somebody said, is that for the ones that are in here now who cross the border, they've been here for 7 years or more. Let's go ahead and give them work visas and let them do some work for us. Let's let them get in here and do some work. For those who are under 7 years, let's go ahead and round them up, and then we process them and send them back. I know, but we need to put our foot down somewhere. We need to do something. But in order to do this, we have to set some goals. We have to make some hard decisions.
Thank you. Kathie Glass.
This is far too complicated question to answer in 90 seconds, or even longer than that. I'll do the best I can. We need to separate immigration from border security. They're related, but they're two separate things, and you can solve them if you do that much more easily. As far as immigration, we should have a welcome immigration policy that Texas creates. Immigration is not a federal function, it's not in the Constitution. Naturalization is. We used to have offices down on the Texas border. I've seen pictures of them from the 50s, and we should have our own worker program. We're right in. We see criminal background check, health background check, it all checks out, you come in, and then you're done. I wouldn't put any quotas or limits on here, but on that. And you could have some other programs for people who come here other than for work, or healthcare, or school, or whatever. But take care of that. Once you do that, and the Texas people are fine with this. They were okay with this. But if you do that, then the problems on the border dramatically decrease. You take pressure off it. There's no reason to jump the border if you're an honest person coming here to be peaceful and productive. And then we can treat the border problem as just a trespass under Texas state law. If a property owner who owns property on the border does not want people coming on his property, he has the right to tell them they can. And he has a right to, just like anybody else who owns property in any other part of Texas, and he has a right to look to law enforcement to help him if there's violations of Texas law there. So if we separate it this way, I think we can solve both these problems in a way that will link us all to live a more peaceful and prosperous life.
Thank you. Back down to this end to Robert Bell. The question is, gay marriage, your thoughts?
I am in full support of gay marriage. What two people or more want to do in the privacy of their own lives, that's their business, not my concern. So, I'm for it. I would push advocacy for it, not just wait for the legislature to come to grips with it. I would actually actively push it to pass legislation.
Mr. Garrett.
Okay, my opinion on this, and you're going to boo me on this, but I'm against gay marriage.
I asked for it, but I've got to jump in here and say, let's not boo. Cheering is great, but I would just ask the audience.
We shouldn't have done that.
But anyway, what I was trying to say is that I am against it. It's wrong. It's a God's violation because He designed it to be between one man and one woman, not one man and one man, not one woman and one woman. What do you mean which God? There's only one God. But I won't debate that right now. But anyway, however, well, the thing about it is I only got enough time to do it. My time is getting pretty close. But anyway, whether you think it's right or not, that's your opinion. But if the majority of the citizens of Texas want gay marriage, then a law will be passed on it. I will sign it if I was governor. Thank you.
Thank you. Kathie Glass.
I want to get government out of everything. I want to get government out of education. And I have a practical way to do it. I think it needs to be done. Everybody everybody's coming together on this, get government out of marriage. But people need to have protection for their relationships. In America, you can make pretty much any agreement that you want to, and it should be respected and enforced legally. So here's how we do it. Every county in Texas has a county clerk's office. That's where you go to record deeds and where you get things like marriage certificates. We just say, don't issue marriage certificates anymore, but instead just set up a registry. Or any couple can set up and say, we declare a, I don't know what you want to call it, domestic partnership. And when you file that online, it comes with a certain set of default principles that will be presumed to exist, such as inheritance, hospital visitation, the things you really need to know to have protection for your relationship. And it's online, so you can access any time of the day or night. Somebody has to go to the hospital in the middle of the night, and they say, well, who has the right to give consent of medical treatment? You go look up online and say, well, they have this partnership, so this person does. It takes all the heat out of this discussion. And in that way, it doesn't matter. You can define marriage however you want to, in different ways, but we don't have to fight over it because here's the point. Government doesn't weigh in and say who's right and who's wrong.
Really none of my business what somebody else does.
Damn right.
Pretty much my answer.
Thank you. Okay, so now a little bit more theoretical question. This one starting with Mr. Robert Garrett. What would you say are the differences between libertarianism and conservatism?
Libertarianism and conservatism. Oh, just by the sound of it, libertarianism, the way I look at it means what it's titled. Liberty, freedoms, be able to do what you want to do. Conservatism, it's almost pretty close to socialism. You always conserve whatever you want to do, but in order to do things the way we want to, not have government to tell us what we want to do. We should be free to make our own choices. We should be free to do whatever we want, and without government interference. It's a hard question to answer on this, so I think I'm going to and pass it on to the next one now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Kathie Glass.
Libertarianism is a moral philosophy, and it usually starts with Ayn Rand. It certainly did with me. And we've thought about this, and we've had a well-developed system of a moral philosophy that has been debated and thought out, and then we apply it, try to apply it religiously based on a non-rational principle. So we will come at it from a different place. In my experience, conservatives say they're for limited government, but because they don't have a well-defined philosophy, you know what Ayn Rand said, philosophy, who needs it? The answer is you. Well, because we do have a well-defined philosophy, and conservatives by and large don't, they sort of hop, skip, and jump around to get to conclusions. They may have an innate sense that government should be limited, but because they don't really, they're not anchored with a moral principle, a fundamental principle, starting with A is A and existence exists, and epistemology, how do you know what you know? We come up with some practical conclusions that are well-based in philosophy. So I think that's why we're more consistent, and we don't scare as much, and we truly believe that government can be limited, and that we will prosper and do well with it. Whereas conservatives, I think it's just a little more by the seat of your pants thing. And when I explain libertarianism to my conservative friends, a lot of them say, I call myself a conservative because I didn't know to call myself anything else. I'm calling myself a libertarian now. So I think there are a lot of people who mistakenly call themselves conservatives and are actually libertarians.
Thank you.
There's some that are just conservative.
Thank you.
She said practical, I think she was right. I think the difference is, we're going to hold this and give you an example. Libertarians, in my opinion, it's going to come on. Libertarians get things done practically. We're talking about one of the biggest problems in the state of Texas is water. And Under my proposal, we're going to use the Red River and bring water down from the Great Lakes and from the Mississippi. This is a topographic map showing the way all the water of the rivers and streams in Texas run. This one shows right here your elevations. This, as you can see, is the highest point. Everything grades itself to the Gulf of Mexico. The darker the green, the lower, closer to the water, the sea level. So what we do is Lubbock, the people in Lubbock right now are trying to figure out a way to bring water down here. We feed all of the aquifers all the way down to San Antonio, Texas.
30 seconds.
And you can see what she was talking about is, I would like to believe libertarians are practical people. This program will create hundreds of thousands of jobs. Hundreds of thousands of jobs in the state of Texas. Thank you.
For me, the difference for libertarianism is that we accept the ownership of self and that there is no need for rule. I believe that is the opposite for conservatives.
All right, thank you. All right, Garrett. Oh, next question, I'm sorry.
I started.
Yeah. What does does education look like in the libertarian world? Please address K through 12 and college.
One more time.
What would education look like in the libertarian world? Please address K through 12 as well as college education.
Oh, okay. As governor, what I was planning on doing is that we need to get out the federal government out of this Common Core, get rid of it, and go back to the basics of our education system from K through 12, also to our colleges and universities. We also need to eliminate this zero tolerance that they use on our kids all the time. Just like just the other day, a 13-year-old from some school in another state, he was doing some type of math problem or doing something, and unconsciously he was just twirling a pencil. And the kid behind him said that he's making motions of a gun. And because of that, he was sent off, suspended, and sent to a psych evaluation. A 13-year-old, and all he was doing was twirling his pencil, trying to figure out something out on paper. That's wrong. That's zero tolerance. It's got to stop, and it's not going to happen in Texas anymore. One of the things I'm going to have mandatory in our education system, at all the grade levels, is to learn the Constitution of the United States. With it, I think it's absolutely necessary. We also need to teach the truth in our education. No lies. We need to teach the good as well as the bad. Already?
10 seconds.
Oh, 10 seconds. Okay. Also, too, we're going to make the teachers, the school boards, the principals, everybody responsible. And one more thing is that we need to teach our kids on how to think. Thank you.
The education, K through 12.
Okay, when I was in the gubernatorial debate in 2010, they asked why we do not dropouts. I said, let them go. These truancy bonds that we have for education is an admission that they've got a product that they just can't give away. So, but what it would look like in the libertarian world, well, here's where the practical and the moral coincide, because Iron told us there is no such thing as really a dichotomy between what is practical and what is moral. We let people take care of their money and provide for themselves, and I'm going all over Texas to Tea Parties, conservative groups, and anybody that will listen. Basically, what I'm saying, it's time to get government out of education, and they are applauding. The education is not the sacred cow it used to be. This is right. We can focus on this. Everybody's dissatisfied with education. In our Texas Constitution, we have a constitutional provision that says we're supposed to provide free public schools so that our citizens will understand their liberty and be able to maintain it. Well, that's not what's happening now. Now, we are not educating our children to love liberty, we are indoctrinating them to accept collectivism. And they're not getting educated, and we're bankrupting ourselves in the process. It's almost 40% of our budget that we spend or misspend on education. So that's why I say, if we can't do a better job than this, then we need to repeal our constitutional prohibition and get government out of education altogether. This is good.
Not sure what that means in a libertarian world. If one of us were to be nominated and were to be elected, it would be against the Democrat and against the Republican candidate. We would have to work with the state legislature to pass any ideas or propose any proposal, and those people are in control of that. What we would have is an opportunity as governor, we would have an opportunity to show and lead and solve a couple of problems that they will agree with us on. I vote out of Harlingen, Texas. I'm a builder out of Port Aransas, and we build and fix things. That's our job. And there's 6% of the Hispanic voters out of the valley voted last time. 6%. And when you ask my friends there why, they say because it don't make a damn. Nobody cares about what we say anyhow. What difference does it make? No one is going to win this race unless you carry the Hispanic vote. In this state, you can forget it. Get nominated. What would be the point? I have got to carry that vote. I can do that from the valley, but I can only do it by fixing that border. And any military man knows that if you go up against any force, you have to have 3.5 times overwhelming force than the force you're up against.
Thank you. Marvell.
For education, I agree that we need to get government out of it. We need to remove Common Core, push it back to our communities, since they know what's best for our children, what they want them to learn, and so on. When it comes to college, unfortunately in the business world, a degree is required in a lot of places. They don't like real-world experience, even though that tends to trump a degree a lot of times. For a libertarian world, in college, it would be a self-sufficient college, not one paid by the taxpayers. Let the research that's being done at the college pay for the college. Let the school sports being done at the college pay for the college, the tuition, things like that. Self-sufficiency in education.
K-12 education?
I'm sorry.
Oh, he's sorry. I'm sorry. I'm getting confused. Long day. Okay. We have a quick lightning round here. This is going to be the last set of questions before closing statements. They all should be yes or no questions. Give it your best shot. All right. So the first yes or no question, and I'll ask all four. Should we stop giving money to corporations to move to Texas? Should we annex Mexico? Question submitted. Will you prominently feature the words Libertarian Party on all campaign literature? And do you support the Libertarian Party of Texas becoming a primary party sooner than is required by law?
Yes, no, yes, no.
All right. Carla.
I'm going to answer what you asked.
Okay, corporations getting money to move to Texas.
Oh, I got that out of order.
Sorry.
You should have said no to that one.
I should have
Sorry.
known that.
No.
Okay, annex Mexico.
No, we're not going to annex Mexico.
Prominently feature the words Libertarian Party on all campaign literature.
If you choose to, that's your right.
And support the Libertarian Party of Texas becoming a primary party before the law requires.
Before the law requires.
Right.
Meaning that we would be allowed to, before we would be required to. So at the point where we're allowed to, would you support making that choice to switch from a convention to a primary party?
Yes, we could do what
Bell?
No, no, yes, no.
No, no, yes, no. And finally,
Robert Garrett.
Maybe, 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 maybe.
fair enough, thank you. 2 minutes for closing statements, and we will start with Starlight.
Somewhat confused a little bit about what we're doing here. The object is to get somebody nominated who can face Abbott, pull the Hispanic vote, pull the working vote, across this state. The 287,000 people in Lubbock who are starving for water up there and south, all the drought. Without somebody who can do that, what's the point of this? I tell you the truth, I wouldn't want to be a nominee of a party that won't fix the murdering and the killing that's going on across that border. Priests are being murdered. Nuns are being murdered. Children are being hung. Maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you really ought not to nominate me. Because what I'm going to do is work with the other people, the other parties, if I was elected. You've got to do that. You're not going to beat Abbott with money or with fancy flyers or pictures or things. That guy has an unlimited amount of money. You brought 20 million, he'll double that and raise it 40 more. The only way you're going to win this is in the streets of West Texas. Talking to the farmers and the ranchers out there. When I won, the only candidate here that's actually won an election in this state, I won the Republican nomination for the 21st Congressional District, which was the largest district in Texas. And I did that in the streets, out there in Midland and out there in Ozona, out there in those small towns, one-on-one with farmers and ranchers. If you can't get those people to vote for you, you might as well not even try. What did y'all get last time in the way of voting?
Thank you. Robert Bell?
Teddy Roosevelt once said, "The great fundamental issue now before our people can be stated briefly, and that is, are the American people fit to control themselves, to rule themselves, to govern themselves?"
Yeah.
And here we stand over a century later, faced with the same fundamental issue. Are Texans fit to control themselves, to rule themselves, to govern themselves? Government is bigger than ever, and Texans need a governor who can run the functions of state in an efficient and cost-effective manner, but leave the people and businesses of Texas to manage themselves. I want to be that governor. Government is more invasive than ever, and Texans need a governor who protects our constitutional rights, not a governor that's going to take them away one by one. Texans need a governor who wants government to stay out of their lives, out of the way, and a governor who will ensure that the rights of all individuals are upheld, not just those of the majority. I want to be that governor. Government is more conflicted than ever, and Texans need a governor who reminds legislators that they work for the people of Texas, not for their own ideas.
Yeah.
The governor must be able to help us see past party lines and work together to do what is best for Texas and for its people. I want to be that governor. I'm Robert Bell, and I have the experience to run an efficient and streamlined operation. I have the strength and will to make choices that will help not only Texans prosper, but the Libertarian Party as well. I have the passion to fight for our constitutional rights, and I have the pride that comes from being a Texan. So I'll ask again, are Texans fit to rule themselves, to control themselves, to govern themselves?
Damn right.
I say we are. That is the governor of our nation. Join me to bring liberty to Texas.
Very good, Bob. Very good. Give credit when credit is due, right? Okay, on my last few few minutes here. I'd like to take a saying from Rod Serling. Anybody know who Rod Serling is?
Yes.
Okay. For those who don't, he's the one that created the Twilight Zone. During his writings, he's one of my favorite writers, and he came up with an episode, season 2, episode 26, if I remember correctly, called The Obsolete Man. It was very good, won awards for it. And what I've done is I downloaded that episode and I wrote down, because this is where we're heading. And it, just like he said, the people of Texas don't stand up and start doing things for themselves and weaning off the federal government control over us. This is what's going to happen to us. You walk into this room at your own risk, because it leads you to the future. Not a future that will be one, but be what might be. This is not a world, it's simply an extension of what began in the old one. It patterned itself from every dictator who has ever implanted a gripping imprint of a boot on the pages of history since the beginning of time. It has refinements, technological advances, and a more sophisticated approach to the destruction of human freedom. But like every one of all the super states that preceded it, it has one iron rule. Logic is an enemy and truth is a menace. Basically what he's trying to say is that
20 seconds.
I'll get it. Any state, any entity, any ideology that fails to recognize the worth, the dignity, and the rights of man, that state is obsolete. We are headed in that direction if we don't start turning it around now. Thank you.
Kathie Glass?
Well, I still want to be your Texas governor for the same reasons I told you in my opening statement. And by now, I think maybe you can understand that if you see the risk and the threats to our liberty the way I do, then what I say and do makes sense. And if you don't see it, then you just don't get me, and that's unfortunate. But I want to handle this corrupt two-party system, which we all seem to accept, and tell you that it's widely accepted everywhere I go and speak. I speak to groups of Republicans, or the Tea Party, but they're really Republicans, and I say, and your two-party system is corrupt. And the chair of the Republican Party is sitting there and he says, yeah, they know it. There are people, they know that it is a rigged game. They know that the rich and powerful, but the cronies control everything. They're still trying to work with it. I tell them it's a conceited move, because you never get liberty in the Republican Party. That hypothesis has been tested for 20 years in Texas, and it has failed. If they have a statewide office holders Republican, supermajorities in House and Senate, we have more taxes, more spending, more front on our private property rights, on our civil liberties, less pushback on Washington, everything you don't want and nothing that you do want. So there's a whole lot of people out there who have tried other parties, and they know it's not working. The time is right for us to put up good candidates and run serious races and get these people to come help us save our liberty. And there's also this primary system. I love that question. No, the primary system is why it's corrupt. It's a rigged game. It's prohibitively expensive. You have to have the rich and powerful fund you. You have to do their bidding, or you don't get elected. So I want to, on June 1st, when this system goes into place for our Texas National Guard, of course, the DHS, I don't know what's happening, but something seems to be coming down in this election season. We need to have a governor out there when the people wake up and say, what is going on here? And they know that Republicans and Democrats are selling down the river. We have alternatives to say, we told you that was coming, and we need to fix this. So, and just one more thing.
I'm sorry, thank you.
Okay, come see me afterwards. I have more to say about this.